Okay, test, test, test. Looking good, looking good, looking good. Okay. Oh. Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit late. I was hoping to have an afternoon doing some games design, and an evening could be playing some video games. That isn't what happened. People. Okay, so what are we gonna do today? So, what we're gonna do today, checking this is working, excellent. So, our current thought process is we're trying to work out what lineages should be available to people. Oh, I need to move that heading. Okay. So, at the moment, I'm trying to work out what potential ancestries, what if I was to go to you, this is a realm of fantasy, what could you want to play? A lot of the names aren't final, they'd just be writing down something so that it's on the page and I can look at it and think about it. So, obviously, we have the basic, you have humans, dwarves, orcs, elves, gnomes, halflings, dragonborn. Is when we're starting to go from normal into not normal. We have bird people, we have beast people. I'm tempted to maybe make fish and amphibian people separate. Maybe. Reptile people who aren't dragons. Insect people. Giant people that aren't, well, giant. Might play with that. Maybe have a look at that. Maybe. Plant people, kobold, centaur, ooze people. Because let's up to creature types, up to creature types. What creatures do we have? So we currently have plant people. We have ooze people. We have fae with elms, gnomes, pixies, sprites, satyr, that kind of thing. We have giant people. We have dragon people. We have animal people. We have human people. We don't have any robot people. We don't have any dream people. We don't have any deity-like people. We don't have any infernal people. Or eldritch, or elemental, or undead. Now, largely that has been a deliberate choice. Because what we have allowed is templates, which is you pick an ancestry and then you apply a template. So if you wanted to be, let's have a look. It's currently humanoid. You could just be a human. You could just be a dwarf. Just be an orc. So we have animal people. Then we hit constructs. What if you want to be a robot person? Well, at that point, what we would probably say is that you use the constructed template on something else. So you could be a robot dragon, a robot elf, a robot. And then the common sense story there would be that you go, I was made by X, and so I look like X. Or because I was made by them, I have some traits that they imparted upon me as part of the construction, even if I don't look like them. Then we have the dreamed, and again we have dream touched. And we've done the same. You've got God, elemental, death. So if you want to be a vampiric or a zombie person, or you want in some way to have, depending on the narrative you want, you are death in some way. You have been affected by death in some way. You would apply death touch. Fey touched is, so some of these are double ups where you've got like Fey touched. The reason I would use Fey touched, even though you have Fey people, is you might have someone who, trying to think of an example. If we go with the traditional line of how a changeling is, which is the Fae have kidnapped your child and replaced it with a changeling. That child may not become one of the Fae, but they might have been Fae touched, so they will have some Fae elements to their character. Same with death, the infernal, dream, eternal. It's so if you're eternal touched, it might be you have angelic features, you have angelic nature applied to you. Masked, because now the SRD has been made Creative Commons. I could just go here at tieflings, but a tiefling is generally viewed as you are usually, it seems to be noted as a human who at some point something happened involving an infernal for person. Exact nature to be determined in character backstory, and therefore you are a human with devilish traits. Your skin colour changes, you get horns, tail, hooves, whatever. So being mass touched, what it would be is you would pick your ancestry and you could pick all the features from just mass touched. You want to go full ham onto the infernal side. Or you could go, yeah, I want a bit of both. I want to kind of gain the benefits of both paths. So yeah, and then you have so then you have altered and where touched, where it's you've not been affected by one of the supernatural powers. You know, you've not been made eldritch, you've not been made devilish or holy or elemental in nature. Instead, where touched and altered are kind of altered. I'm looking at as more someone has modified you via other means. It could be science, it could be a wizard, who knows. And then you have where touched, which is you are not lycanthropic fully, but you have some lycanthropic things. So I guess I should probably explain what's going on. So how Ancestry currently works is current iteration, currently working with. You aesthetically get to, within reason, narrate whatever the hell you like about your character, body type, gender, sex. All of the physical nature is up to you. Because at the end of the day, it's your character. Mechanics wise, you pick an ancestry appropriate and you get to pick 3 features from the list. So you will not be necessary. So you could all be dwarf, but you would not necessarily have the same combination of dwarf features. At 5th level, you get to pick 2 more. So in total, you get 5. There is a reason for that. At that point, there's not an unreasonable chance that a suitably large party or one ancestry won't pick the same things. But the reason I went for 5 is because then if you're a mixed ancestry, you can pick between multiple features. Templates are special ancestries that modify a normal one. So what I'm currently debating is obviously humans, for example, because this is currently what is mandatory. This is true for every human. Your creature type, your size, your movement, and your lifespan. Your features get to alter everything, and these are not set. There are 10 in total, and the plan is that every one of these gets 10 features to choose from. The what I'm currently trying to debate. Certain things come here into the mandatory. So, for example, obviously elves, we're gonna borrow trance from the SRD that's become CC. So you have trance, okay. Should trance be something you choose as an elf? Or should it go up here and then we pick something else to go down here? So yeah, it's a process, and then templates will probably have more. If you pick a template, you get more things automatically, but you also get less things to choose from. Another thing I've been tempted to do is maybe remove the 3 and 5. That doesn't really work. Oh. Yeah, it's a weird one. I've got to try and work out how to balance it, how to make it work. Yeah. Another thing that's going to be a part of it is creature types will have an effect. So this is a bit of a departure of 5e. 5e traditionally, this is just this. This has basically no effect, with the exception of certain things. Say you cannot target X creature type. Which, okay, all right, yeah, sure. what I am tempted to do is not go ahead with that and offload certain mechanical effects to the creature type. So it might be, for example, if you pick construct, you won't need to eat, sleep, drink, or breathe. That's just a rule every construct has because they are a construct. Why does a machine need to eat, sleep, drink, or breathe? It might be that all undead have a natural resistance to necrotic damage, because that's one thing I can port over. I can port over now damage types. Here's the thing, I can port over. Whether or not I will port over is a different matter entirely, but the option is never there because of the CC stuff with the SRD. So the big thing is, Fae is another class example. Fae will have resistance against charm magic. So any of the Fae ancestries, as a pixie, satyr, elves, they all can resist being charmed because they all come from the Fae courts. That is just a thing that being one of the Fae allows you to do. And then the exception to the rule will be, and then unless otherwise stated, it'll be more clear that then, okay, this is an assumption. This means instead of it being, I have to include on any construct that rule, you can't easily drink or breathe, the only time I ever need to include something in there is if it's like, actually, no, this is the opposite is true. So it kind of, instead of for creatures you create going, okay, repeat that bit of text on the stat block, it's like, no, this is an assumption that is just made. So that I think is cool. Obviously we've written up humans, dwarves, and elves are still in the planning steps. As at the moment, I'm just trying to work out, is there anything fantasy that we haven't done yet? Oh, so let's have a think. I mean, we could maybe move I'm tempted to keep Centaur out of the Beastkin purely because a lot of anthropomorphic animals follow the rule that you are anthropomorphic, i.e., you are a humanoid body with animal features. The problem with Centaur is the extra pair of legs. But what we would then allow potentially is what is the four-legged animal and what is the top half. You get more creative freedom in what it's just. This is for my bottom half is 4 sets of legs. Yeah, so you've got centaur, we've got ooze people, we've got giant people, we've got dragon people, we've got animal people, we might make fish people separate. We've got plant people. I think between templates and stuff, we've got everything covered. I think we've got everything covered. And then there is always the rule that you can make your own ancestry features or your own ancestry if one of the ancestry options doesn't cover what you want. So I think this list is fine. I think I've got the basics all covered. There is one we could do. Because currently you've got... how do we do that? I'll note it down. This one is going to be a big maybe, but let's consider it, because I'm also trying to consider at the same time the world I have written as a setting that I would want to be able to use this rule set for. What things do I need the rules to be able to allow me to make possible? Yeah. Okay. So, right, let's quickly do a quick skim through, because I've written quite a lot of stuff since last time we were here, and there's quite a lot of stuff I haven't written up yet. So, initial principles: there is a player, there is a game guide, the GG. GG is a player, but they're the player who effectively runs the background stuff. You know, they provide narrative, they provide voice and character to the NPCs and the monsters that characters may come across. Specific rules will always trump general rules. So the basics is you have a trait test, which is you roll a d20 plus a character trait, because it's called a trait test for a reason. Then you add other bonuses. The total test value is that result. If the total test value is equal to or greater than the test target, you succeed. If you roll a 1, you fail, but they get a mark of fate. If you roll a 20, you succeed, and you become inspired. And a cool thing happens. You have the 6 traits, which are slightly less eugenicsy than some of the other stuff that have been options. Cannot go below -2, cannot go above 5. You have skills. We have a list of skills. There's a skill bonus that goes up as you level. We've got rules for learning skills. This we covered last time. Okay, this is new marks of fate. We didn't actually have rules for this. So basically, what mark of fate is, you will often get it from rolling an actual one. You'll get 1 mark of fate. You can only have a mark of fate at one time. If you'd be given a mark of fate, you can give it to someone else. A mark of fate will disappear at the end of the next. We can now use the phrase long rest. So, if you have a mark of fate, you can expend it at any time, and you get pick an effect. The first is you can flash back to a point where you planned, narrate a flashback of how you prepared while planning for your current activity, the specific situation you're in, describing the actions you would have taken to prepare for it. And then you work with the GG to work out what the benefit would be, resolve any costs that may have been incurred, such as losing coins. You could also choose to have advantage on a roll. Simple. You can call upon a concept, we'll get to that, and you can replenish 1 action point. This is powerful. And then you get some other options based on other stuff. If you expend a mark of fate, you can choose to give it to the game guide. The game guide can have a number of marks of fate equal to the number of players. When the GG has a mark of fate, they could use the mark to give a boon to an NPC or to curse a character. And if they curse a character, they get to they have disadvantage on the trait test. After a mark of fate has been used, the GG then gives it to the character, gives it to a character who does not currently have a mark of fate. So effectively, in letting the game guide apply a negative buff or a buff to a monster that might negatively affect you, they can then give that mark of fate to the characters. Then there's inspired action. So if you get the inspired event, such as rolling a natural 20, you get the ability to expend that inspiration to commit an inspired action. The action can be performed any time you can normally perform an action, and it costs you 1 AP. Your inspiration will disappear at the end of the next long rest. If you haven't already used it, we split it up. So there's focus through the pain. That wording has been finalised yet, but basically you could use an action to reduce the severity of a consequence. Lucky find, you can just find something worth 1 gold piece or less. So you could find some spell material component. That's mighty handy. Remote assistance, you can give the aid action at a range. These are kind of, as you can see, they're kind of narrative-y. It's like observant socializer. You talk to someone you haven't met before. You can use the action to coax one fact about themselves from them, and you gain a sense of a topic to best avoid when talking to them in the future. And then pressing the point after you've made a trait test, where you're trying to get information, you might notice something that you think you can press further, at which point you can use this special action to repeat the trait test, but you automatically have a +5 bonus. This may or may not get you extra information as you're pressing the point. Prior preparation is just this action basically means things that you're planning to actually make planning a part of it. Planning and preparation. So basically, this just helps things along with travel. Then surprise discovery is something that gives exploration a bit of a interesting thing. Follow through is basically a special action that lets you make a attack at someone in melee range and continue to move past them. And then shared focus is you and another character that you're bonded to get to have a special attack where you combo up. And then classes and magic items also will give you an extra. So it's generally a thing that every class will give you an extra mark of fate effect and an extra combat inspiration effect. It might not be combat, it might be just a general thing, but generally everyone gets an inspired action from the class. So then you have your concept. Concepts are abstract sentences that describe aspects of your character. different areas of character gen. We'll explain when you make them, but basically you can use a mark of fate to call upon a concept. Whoever's calling the concept must explain why it's relevant to the role. If the GG accepts the premise, then one of the following effects happen. You can give a plus or minus 2 to a roll. All of the die can be re-rolled that have been rolled. And then, because the game, and the reason it's a plus or minus is the game guide can also choose to invoke a concept grant a negative effect, such as those listed above, imposing disadvantage on a trait test. You could even suggest, oh, pardon me, you could even suggest this offering an appropriate concept if you wish. If this occurs, I should rephrase that. Yeah, basically, in the GG using a concept against you, you get a mark of fate. As a lot of this is up to think, it might be that like maybe the game guide doesn't get marks of fate. I don't know. We'll see. Steps to start being invoked. Yeah, that's probably a better way to put it. Because basically, I don't want you immediately then spending it to counteract whatever the game guy did. So then there's time. There are 2 types of time we use. There's narrative progression, active progression. Active time, narrative time. Narrative time is basically when things like I'm going to use an action doesn't really make sense because you're just generally describing what you do. You're not in this rigid combat time structure. It's just kind of, it's narrative. Things happen, things flow. Whereas active time is when you're operating in initiative order. There's a set number of actions anyone could perform on a turn. And then it kind of goes into what each unit of time is. So if you hear a round, what a round is if you hear real-time measurement, what that means. What happens if you see the word encounter used or scene used? What happens if something references a session? What happens if a long rest or short rest is done? Because basically something may happen at the end of session. Something may happen some effects may last for the encounter. Some may last for a number of minutes. So these are all, because I don't want to limit myself to very strictly, this is it, this is all it can be, have fun. So then we got long rest. Long rest works pretty much as D&D expects. We say you can't use it again for 16 hours. It's basically you cannot use it because different worlds might have different timings. What we do say is basically the standard is 16 hours, but if your setting has a number of hours a day different to our own, it's the hours of the day minus 8. So 16 is 24 minus 8. Basically, you're going to spend 8 hours asleep. We really shouldn't count those. You can't do 24 hours because 24 hours, it means effectively your group can never go to sleep at the same time. You know, you can't go, this is our bedtime. It's like, well, no, I've got to wait 24 hours, so I've got to... Yeah, it gets weird. A bit silly. And then you have short rest. Short rest is cool. I've tried to make short rest interesting. So a short rest will only last an hour, usually. To call a short rest, you must make a campfire. Traditionally, this requires some firewood, tinderbox, or some matches. There are other ways for the party that the party may find on their travels. During a break, each character can perform one activity. Activities are specific abilities granted by their class or from other means that can only be used during the short rest. I should really use short rest and not break. It's because at the time I was under the thing of I can't really use short rest. What word also suits short? It's a break. A general activity any party member can perform is preparing a meal, which requires a trait test, which basically the individual and the GG can discuss what trait test is going to be, what skill would be useful. If the meal uses nothing more than basic rations, you can effectively never roll higher than a 10. If you hit 10 or more, it will allow you to replenish HP by expending hit die. However, if you roll a 20 or more, which obviously you can't do with just rations alone, you can also reduce the severity of consequences. If during the meal your party also shares a moment to talk with each other, then they also will get a number of temporary hit points. Against number of temporary hit points equal to twice their skill bonus. Bonding with mysterious magic items, eating, drinking, socializing are not considered activities. They're kind of things you can do around an activity. At the end of a short rest, some abilities will also replenish. Socializing in relationships. We've been a little bit light on what social rules are, primarily because GGs will each have their own. We've considered accessibility first because our general thing is people should roleplay the scene, and then depending on what the result of the roleplay is, that you would want a trait test. And the target may be altered based on how the interaction went. But we've also put in accessibility facility. There are times that you don't feel up to role playing, and the GG should, support a character if someone is not feeling up to role playing. Then yeah, just allow it. We've put some conversation safety tools in, so we've got some phrases that if a character brings them up, it's kind of it's being used for a reason. So you've got let's talk about something else, which is basically this topic is making me uncomfortable. OC, can we please change it? No, I don't want, which is basically saying no, I don't want to do X thing. And then what do you think, which is a suggested one. Primarily just for getting quieter characters involved in the conversation, and then during sessions area you can come up with other phrases you want. And then relationships and bonds, which is you could become bonded to a character if you have a high enough bond, at which point you get a concept that you use, which is basically a simple sentence to describe the nature of your bond. And only those two people can call upon it. The GG can't. Exploration and travel is just about where I've gotten to at the moment. This is kind of the most up to where we're writing rules. So exploration rules is applying for a party that does not specifically know where their destination is or the path through an area as part of their journey. The rules are actually for the GG, so we've explained them in the GG corner, but we wanted the reason it's currently here in the player section is it is to show that this is an aspect of play and that you can you can call upon it, you can invoke it, but it's mainly rules for how the GG then will resolve it. Travel is rules for when you know where you are going. You might travel through uncharted areas, at which point the exploration rules apply for that bit, but the main journey will use the travel rules. And basically, each you have a planning and preparation phase where you're basically going, this is where we're going to. The GG says how many days, so the characters get their supplies. They let the GG know what they want to do each day, how many hours they want to do activities for. Obviously, the GG might go, this place has 3 routes. Overland by car, overland by walking, and boat along the coast. This will take this many days, this many days, this many days, this. Then the players get to decide. Before beginning the travel, the party for the GG what each member would like to be doing each day. Times they're travelling by, when they plan to make camp. Night watch rotas, so who's taking what watch. And then the party enters the travel phase, which is where the GG can then go, okay, I'm going to throw a random encounter at you, but they can also allow the party to just role play parts of the journey, have some conversations for dinner on the road. Basically, it's guidance on what the GG can do to make travel interesting. Environmental features and effects where I got to, so currently we're doing from great heights. Basically, this is rules of stuff you might encounter in travel. So it'll be like, what happens if you're climbing up a mountain where you're at high altitude? What if you fall off a cliff while you're falling? What if there's a pool of lava? What if there's a load of ice? What about this? You know, the usual. We're going on an adventure. What if you're going in the sea? What if you fall in the sea? Da, 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 da. So then, active time chapter we haven't got to yet, which is basically going to be combat and chases. One thing I really wanted to do was kind of, one of the reasons, yes, a lot of the socialising explorations say go see the GG section. The reason I wanted to make it clear that they're chapters is they are equal parts of the game to combat. They do not. The game isn't his combat encounter, everything else is secondary. This game is about the entire journey, the process. Combat may be a part of that process, but combat does not have to be part of that process. So yeah, there's a lot of combat stuff. I want to look at square grids and theatre of the mind. We might also look at hex rules, coming up with different ways those three types of map will work, and supporting people whichever way they want their combat to go. And then we get to character generation, which, as we said, so the moment you have, and this is where the concepts start to really come in, so you have core concepts, which is you have a one-line summary saying what your character is. So it's like, reluctant knight, the bloodied star, a lost heir to the frost throne, handed the dragon slayer, infected on the run. You know, they're phrases that describe a core part of your character. It's kind of like a short, snappy summary. You know, it's not the level 5 elf fighter. It's more narrative than that. It's kind of what's your narrative concept, what's your thematic concept, and then you have a flawed concept, which is something about your personality, backstory, situation that complicates your life. So, for example, you could have infected with vampirism, or you're quick to anger, or pursued by the Thieves Guild, or always wanting new experience. And basically, these things kind of, these are the things that your game guide may call upon to affect a scene. I should probably also mention that. I think we also want to invoke it roleplay wise. Where are we? Here we go. So basically, concepts are some fun roleplay things. And then you have character traits, which is it's your character traits. It says words, you just generate them. Then you pick an ancestry. So your ancestry is, you get, as I said, 3 and then 5 are level 5. mixed ancestry. You get to pick traits from amongst the different lineages you come from. Templates can be applied over the cost over ancestry. You should feel free to make your own ancestry if there isn't one that suits what you're doing. We have the creature types. I'm happy with those creature types. And then you have ancestry. And so humans, the only one we've done so far. So humans, as we get, you get a bit of fluff. They are in the real world. One common thing you see in fantasy is everyone has a creator god except for humans, so we've lent into that people were born of the magic of creation, of the very cosmos, which some people find it means they can draw cosmic magic, which is a bit like arcane magic, you D&D folks. It's kind of the magic. You have some root of creation, as it were, and then you have the thought web for psychic powers. There is a natural truth to what's actually going on, but you've kind of got to read some of the other lore bits. So then here you have creation, connection to the cosmos, and innate psychic, which is basically you get some magic. Cooperative mindset, which is you find it easier to become bonded to people, and you could have more bonds than a normal person. Creatorless, because you don't have a creator god, you find it easier to resist the effects of Eternals. Determined, basically advantage on determination rolls to rally spirits or against being frightened. Enchanted lineage is something in your bloodline makes it stronger, which means your lifespan's increased and you have advantage against being poisons and diseases. You become inspired on a 19 or a 20. You can maintain a constant pace for twice the amount of time before becoming exhausted. You're multi-class easier, and if in a group of 3 or more people, you get +1 AP, and whenever you perform an inspired action, allies generate double the limit potential. And then everyone else is in the planning stages right now. Oh yeah, goblins. I forgot about goblins when I was talking about the different groups. Yeah, goblins are fair. And then you have background. Background gives you +1 in a single trait. You get 10 HP. You have 2 languages, 2 skills, and you get a tool, a simple weapon, and a dagger. And that's what you're trained in. Or yeah, I should have said item training. And then you get a feat. So, for example, you could be a farmer and you get endurance, 10 hit points. You get 2 languages, athletics and nature, cooking tools, a dagger and a spear. And any feat. It doesn't. And that's a background. And then this is, and then you've got to work out your relationship up, high, down. Oh yeah, there's languages. So languages are a bit more different how they are in D&D. The first thing is, ancestries do not have a language. There's no reason elves have a language or dwarves have a language. It's every nation or culture has its own language. A kingdom may only have 1 folk living in it, but at that point, we would still recommend having a language based on the kingdom rather than the people that make it up. So, you know, if you're the kingdom of Athelloren from Tolkien, which is an elf kingdom, instead of it being our language is Elvish, it's no, the language is Athelloren or Lorien or something like that. Because what is to guarantee that all of your languages have evolved the same way as the other elven kingdoms that may exist? There are some supernatural languages that are they are standard, but that's because they're supernatural. So you have Diabolic, which is the language of the Masked Evils, with Abyssal and Infernal that are specific to demons and devils. They treat Diabolic language as a root language. Draconic, Eternal, which you may then see in religious texts and rites. Fey, Outsider, Primordial, which then might have that are tied to specific kind of elemental subdialects, but they all treat Primordial as the root language. Runic, and Thieves' Cant. Thieves' Cant isn't supernatural, but it's one shared across multiple nations for those initiated into criminal groups. The Realm of Death and the Realm of Dreams often use the languages of people new in life or of their domain masters. A thing I want people to consider is a root language. If there was a root language or a shared root language, it may be easier to understand because there will be certain linguistic rules. You can create just one language and have it known by everybody if you just don't want to deal with languages. And then we make note of national background. So instead of going, you're a farmer, you're a guard, it might be, here is the background of the kingdom of Galatea, and these are the skills, weapons, etc. that you know. They can maybe break some of the rules, and then what it might be is any option in your regular background you can swap out. So, for example, it might be that the Kingdom of Asperia trains its peasants on the longbow, at which point you could swap your item known for the longbow. Just as an example. Relationship pod dynamics we haven't gotten to yet. That will be a neat thing we'll get to. And then this is where you would end if you go into level 0. So level 0 is intended to help people learn the base mechanics. You don't have a class, you just have your background, which will have given you 2 skills, some items, including some weapons, a feat, some languages, 10 hit points, and a character trait. And then you'll have your racial stuff, which will give you some other special abilities. And then you have your concepts. And then that's what you would start as. So that might be the point that you're being sent into the basement to deal with the rats. You know, this is when you're dealing with the really low level stuff, the really simple stuff. And because some people said, oh, do you not want to add endurance to that? And it was like, no, you're a peasant. You have 10 hit points. That's it. You just have 10 hit points. And then level 1 plus game is when you start going into the traditional classes. And then you have magic, which we haven't got to yet, downtime crafting, technology for games, vehicles, land. I've got a low GG corner, stuff like Session 0, customizing the rules, guidance on trait tests, guidance on social relationships and bonds. I've got exploration phases, I've got a bestiary, we've got the cosmology. I think we covered the cosmology last time, but just in case, the general gist is you have the world, which is on because D&D's basically CC'd some of their base cosmology. It's kind of helped us. You have the material realm, which may be multiple worlds. The world is generally considered whatever your setting is. There can be other worlds. You can get there through space travel, portals, whatever. And then off the material realm are the other realms. And when you hear the realms of X, that's kind of a grouping of multiple single realms along a theme. So you have the realms of dream, and effectively each world will have its own realm of dreams. And then in the realm of dreams, there is the realms of the Fae and the realms of nightmare and the astral sea. And the astral sea kind of forms the glue that connects the different realms of dream. And then you have the realms of the Fae, who inhabit who are forcibly colonized part of the dream. And then you have the realms of nightmare, which are invading the other realms of dream. And then you have the realms of death, which is so called because there are lots of afterlives, especially the different faiths. And then you have the ethereal realm, which is considered a subpart of the realms of death, and it connects the realms primordial, the realm material, and the realms of death. You then have the realms of heavens, which is where eternals live. And then a pantheon may gather a bunch of sub-realms together. And then you have the realms of the masquerade, which is where all the evil stuff lives. And then you have the realms primordial, where the elemental stuff live. Every realm... So realms will be made of individual realms, which might have a sub-theme. So for the realm of dreams, there isn't really sub-themes, except for they're just tied to a specific world. The realms of death, each realm is a different afterlife. The realms, the heavens, generally the realms form pantheons. Masquerade, each of the realms is tied to one of the arch-evils and their armies, who are in eternal war against each other. The realms primordial, each realm is connected to one of the elements. And then you have, within these sub-realms, I mean, in some cases you might have, I think with the elements you actually have sub-realms, which are a collection of realms tied to each element. And then the realms are more specific. And basically, each realm is then controlled by an individual who kind of acts as the governor, the guiding governing force. And then a realm is cut into parts called domains, and every domain will have a master. And the master has the ability to shape the domain however they wish. So, the realm primordial, the masters are elemental titans. For the realms of masquerade, domains will be whoever the kind of lieutenants of the arch-evil are. For the realms of the heavens, a domain might be assigned to a very devoted angel or something. The masters of death kind of get to shape more specific aspects of the afterlife. The Fae courts, every master is effectively an archfey. The realms of nightmare we don't know about. And technically, any mortal that dreams is the master of a dream domain that is unique to them. The material realm has no masters and has no domains. It is what makes the material... And then there's the outside, which is Eldritch Horror Place, that no one really knows much about because it's the Eldritch Horror Place. We don't go there. We do not go to Eldritch Horror Land. The Eldritch Horror Land is not fun for anyone. So that's hopefully given people a bit of an idea where we've got to. We've done quite a lot. As I said, my big thing at the moment is jumping between ancestries and wherever we've got to here, which for me is environmental effects. Elemental effects, environmental effects. There will be elemental effects in the environmental effects, but they are not exclusive. And then we'll get to combat rules, which is going to be fun. Currently, a lot of combat is probably where we're going to show our D&D roots the most. Because here's the thing. ancestries work very differently to races in D&D. Combat is going to... Actually, no, I say combat's going to be the most similar. It's really not. Because if you think about it, yeah, there'll be an attack action, but that probably won't be what you want to do on a turn. I can probably go into that now. Actually, it's theoretical, entirely theoretical at the moment. But in the theoretical domain that we are existing in, what we really want to do is combat will work as follows. So you roll initiative. That follows normal. That's normal. That's what you expect. It's a agility trait test. What we will let you do is, when it is your turn, you have a number of action points. So it's not major action, minor action, movement. It's... you have an action. You have so many action points. Every action can only be done once. And so, for example, for 2 action points, you can take the attack action. However many attacks you have, you can make that many attacks. Attack action's great. Everyone loves it. What you get to do, however, is have a bit more flexibility with it. So, for example, currently it's you get 1 bonus action, 1 major action. That's it. You can't do 3 bonus actions. You can't do 2 bonus actions. You only get 1 action, 1 bonus action. So what you can do is we're just going to do bonus actions this turn. What you could do is yeah, it's... I'm not quite sure how everything's going to work yet, especially AP values, but effectively, because partially it's going to tie into class, so I should probably go into the class design aspect. The 2 classes that are going to play with AP the most would be, if I use D&D speak, the fighter and the monk. Because how the fighter is going to operate is they are going to have lots of 1 AP actions. These 1 AP actions are effectively stunts and ways of combat that, when flowing together, allow you... So how a fighter will get to operate is, when they would get an extra action, it's they get a choice. You can either choose to take an extra action, which extra attack, which is your attacks do 1 more attack. Cool, great. You get a punch 1 more time. But what we also give you a choice is you can take the attack action, or you can get 1 more AP. Now, 1 more AP doesn't sound like a lot until you consider the fact that how the fighter I want it to work is, fighter turns into this kind of dance-like flowchart of, you want to do an opener and then a flourish and then a this, that, the other, and then a finisher. And then depending on how many action points depends how long this chain can be, and the finisher will get more powerful based on what the previous, how big the chain is and stuff like that. Some bits may get an ability where they get stronger if your previous move was a different move, so it kind of turns into this dance. And that's what I want fighter to do. And then there will be monk, who will be different, because monk will not get more AP. What Monk will get is the ability to get combos off. So if they do this, if they meet certain conditions, they can replenish an AP. And when they replenish an AP, they suddenly get the ability to do X, Y, Z. And that's what I want to see if the idea of replenishing your AP is enough to build a class out of from combos. If it is, that's amazing because we basically get an extra class. If not, Monk will probably disappear and will become kind of subsumed into some of the other classes. Which, I hope not, because there is design ideas I have for a monk-like class. It's just if we get them to actually happen and work. Oh, good fun, good fun, good fun. But this is it. It's trying to get things to work interestingly. Um, I said that there's. I'm not going to perfectly mirror D&D because to do that, I might as well just make content for D&D. We don't want to do that. We want to look at D&D and go, what lessons can you teach us? That's the entire point of this. Is why we're doing things like, let's try an action point system. Let's see if this can make combat more interesting. Okay, how can we use that design language in our classes? I said there's an analog to fighter and there's an analog to monk, but there is not. It is not going to be, you're just the monk. It's going to be, okay, we use an analog to explore and see if we can do something cool. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think I'm very interested to see where this ends up. My hope is that we end up in this sweet spot where there is enough choice and customization options that every class feels valid and the way they fight feels interesting. But what I also want is the ability that it's not so many options, so many choices, so many things that you just become stun locked. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Definitely going to be interesting. So yeah, that's where we are so far. My hope is the decisions I've made. Every decision I've made, the key thing is I want there to be more options to sprout from it. There either has to, if I'm adding a mechanic, it either has to give more roleplay options, more mechanical options, as both a designer or for the player to interact with. So, for example, the AP system will hopefully give players more options in combat. What it'll also hopefully give is designers more things they can do. With marks of fate, with inspired actions, my hope is, I would love it if someone came along and went, I'm going to write a book of inspired actions. It's just, or even a chapter of a book. They're just like, here's a load of inspired actions. Boom. You're inspired, here's a book. Go for it. Pick your action. Go. You know, if someone wants to make a load of features going, actually, I know there's 10 features for everything, but I want to create an alternate list for my setting. In my setting, dwarfs work like this. So here are 10 features to make your dwarfs closer to my setting's dwarfs. It's like, yeah, cool. And you know what? I would probably say if someone does that, then what you could easily do is if you're a DM who isn't setting specific, you just go, cool, here are 20. You could do an all dwarf party now. Here are 20 options. It is not likely that you are all going to pick the exact same 5 things in that 20 options. Here is a new ancestry we made that hopefully gives you the fantasy you want. Here is like, because there's going to be more, because I've already got ideas for player settlements, player housing, player bases. And I want to make those 3 things separate. It's like, here is the house. This is purely cosmetic. This is you just getting to have some fun, have something to spend money on. Enjoy it. It's your manor house. Here is here is a business you could own. Probably do that as well. Here is a business. Here is a house. Here is a base. Here is a settlement. And you know, you could combine them together. You could go, okay, my house is a manor. I have my base under the manor. Or we own a business. We own a tavern. We have a thing under the thing. We have a keep. I'm going to build my house within the walls of the keep. You know, here is my estate. And the stronghold itself is the player base. The house lies within the stronghold, and maybe a settlement is based around it that the players can put money into. And if they want to engage with that, that would be an optional thing. The primary thing it would probably be is like, its primary goal would probably be to be a cash sink, but it would be a cash sink that then players can deal with. We're going to have rules for vehicles, obviously. But the rules for the vehicles I'm going to put in here, reasonably, are going to be so simple, because the key thing is, once... Because the rule I'm using is space, we're going to go old-fashioned, where space equals the sea. So if you have a rule for a boat, you can easily transfer that to a rule to a boat in space. And once you have a rule for a boat in space, someone can go, okay, I'm going to make a spaceship. It's not cannons, they're lasers. And you can narratively modify it so that, yeah, you can have a high fantasy, you can have a high sci-fi thing. You just change what the boats are, you change what the weapons are. You keep the numbers the same because you're keeping the technology level equivalent. Because if you really want to go big thing of like, I've got cannonballs, you've got laser guns, in space fight, the ones with the lasers will probably win. At which point that isn't really a fight, and you shouldn't really put your players through that. But this is it. We want to give you options. That's the key thing. It's just giving you options. I mean, I'm gonna adapt the horror adventures for this. Um, because the setting was my own. It's just I'll have to adapt certain bits. But that's fine. Um, we will. Um, I've got a dungeon I want to write. Mega dungeon that, if I can get it to work, would be really cool. And you could also use in the system. I have. Well, I'm going to touch on technology, and by technology, it'll be like, here are how guns work. I think advanced tech we'll probably do as a separate document, and that will be where you get like your cyberpunk sci-fi, and that's where I can convert all of my all those subclasses I spent ages writing. I can convert them. Uh, but yeah, we it's going to be interesting. Basically, it's a lot. I mean, dear God, I'm having to write down time and crafting rules. I'm writing about session zero safety mechanics. It's like to, to anyone who's been in DTRPG a while, it's like, oh God, that's so regular. But it's like, yeah, but this is very unlike some of the big games out there. They're like, oh, what's a what's a safety thing? What's a just session zeros? So, but no, I hope what I write will be of interest to people. I hope. My biggest hope is that it's this section. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of player options here, but that doesn't mean much. The bit I really care about is how this bit comes out of the GG corner. I want to see how the game guide section comes out. My hope is it's helpful. My hope is it lets people have options that, improve their game. But that's all I can really hope. I'm not really sure I'm going to get much more games design done right now. So what I'm probably going to do. What do I want to do? What I'm probably going to do is. Um, yeah, what we're probably going to do is we'll yeah, actually, instead of streaming a game, I think I'm going to call it there for now, purely because I'm sat there, I'm looking at this and I'm going, I'm not sure I've got the mentality today to do a second part. I do apologise. I was hoping today I would get the game as well, but I was incredibly tired when I got back from work earlier, so I kind of just napped the afternoon away. Um, So between now and whenever we do the next thing, this week, I'm just thinking what my week is looking like. Hopefully we'll get some more game stuff out. I just really want to play some video games. But I also keep having bits where I'm like, I need a games design. It's like a little bug. I need a games design. So I kind of find it difficult to focus on games right now. My hope would be that we do get some game stuff. Yeah, I'd like to try and do some Mass Effect and Harvestella this week. Saturday. I might see about Saturday and Sunday trying to do some bigger stuff. So we might try and do a games design followed by FF14 stream Saturday, and I don't know, might do a big game stream. I don't know, Mass Effect Harvestella Sunday. I'll have a think. I'll have a think about it. If I do that, I'll probably do Hades in the week. And then the week after, we are doing a charity stream for Mermaids Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there might not be really any streams in the week because we'll be making up for it at the weekend. It'll be all fantasy games, so we'll probably do some Harvestella, we'll probably do some Hades, we'll do some games design. I might Final Fantasy. God, I can't believe I forgot Final Fantasy. We might. I could look at doing some Kingdoms of Amalur. Not download. I never really got to really play or get into the game, but do have it on Steam. I would see about downloading it. We could do some Kingdoms of Amalur. There will be financial incentives during the week, during the weekend. So by financial incentives, I mean if you donate a set amount, there will be rewards. Could be a stream in your honor. Could be game giveaways. We have milestone stuff, which is like the game giveaways. We have we'll do a TTRPG stream if we get a set amount, stuff like that. And then you have the donations, which is more here's a thing dedicated to you stuff. So that's going to be fun. I should probably actually put out some. I should probably actually put out some marketing stuff for that. Actually announce it's happening. So yeah, that's the current plan at the moment. What I'm probably gonna do is I'm gonna close the stream, and then what we might actually do is we might start it back up after I've turned on some FF14. Just stream. We'll see. I'll finish this for now, and if folks see me in a bit, I've decided actually we're going to do some FF14. So, thank you all for coming, thank you all for joining, and we might see you very shortly.